have a lot to say about this, but do you want me to go first? Or
why not?
Okay. All right. I hardly ever go first, so let me give this a whirl. When I first saw her making these comments to The Blaze, by the way, which Glenn Beck apparently still has a show, I didn't know that. I did too. I thought that it was a very bizarre subject to be bringing up, and this is something that conversations has been going on for decades and decades and decades. And I thought, as the woman who now famously removed the Confederate flag from the South Carolina Capitol, it seemed like a strange stance. This is a very, very deep issue for my family in particular, because, and I know everyone gets very triggered and upset when I talk about my dad, but please just bear with me. When he was running for president in 1999, he said that he agreed that the Confederate flag should be above the South Carolina Capitol, that it was a symbol of heritage. He came to regret it and called it the biggest mistake of his life, and I actually want to show a clip of him saying that.
Okay.
My ancestors fought for the Confederacy, and I am sure that many, maybe all of them, fought with courage and with faith that they were serving a cause greater than themselves. But I don't believe their service, however distinguished, needs to be commemorated in a way that offends, that deeply hurts people whose ancestors were once denied their freedom by my ancestors.
So I will say this
for him.
Plagued him.
Yeah.
Up until the day he died.
Yeah.
Plagued him. I believe we talked about it on this show when he was on.
To me when he was on the show.
Yeah. Up until the point that he died, he called it one of his lives. He had two big life regrets. This is one of them. It haunted him. This will haunt her. It will. Trust me. And this was in 1999.
Wow.
Over 20 years ago. So I don't understand why we're still talking about it. I don't understand why we're still debating the Confederate flag. It's a symbol of racism. And I know there are people in the South that think differently, but it's not about what people like me think.
But you know why we're still debating it? Because we don't have John McCain or a John McCain anymore. There's nobody in the Republican leadership that's like him.
But this is
not
a very
one.
bizarre argument to still be having 20 years later.
And I actually think that it's disqualifying for her to run for national office now that she's made this statement.
It
is completely disqualifying for her. And in that op-ed that she wrote to try to clean up what she said on air, she's saying now that it's because of outrage culture that you could never now remove the flag from the South Carolina Capitol. And I think what's interesting is she's now trying to diminish the very oppression of my community, of my ancestors, by calling it outrage. Well, I am outraged by that position because, you know, South Carolina actually in I believe it was 1860 became the first state to commit treason by officially declaring that its citizens didn't want to be part of the United States if it meant they couldn't treat black people as property. The first state to commit treason, and nowhere in that declaration did they mention sacrifice, did they mention heritage. Slavery was mentioned 18 times in that declaration. 18 times. And so for her to somehow say that people think that the Confederate flag is about service and it's about heritage, it is about slavery. It is about the oppression of black people. Nothing more. And she knows that. She knows that. She should never run for national office.
Sunny's point is interesting, though, because she does know better.
She knows better.
And I do think what's interesting is that when I originally saw her interview, I thought, oh, she's clearly running for president in 4 years. It's very evident that she thinks that Trump is the wave of the future, and in order to do it, I'm going to need his supporters. And apparently his supporters are people that think, or some of them, that the Confederate flag is something that's going to be okay. And for me, that is a very dangerous gamble. Because as a woman who will not come on our show, and I have asked, Abby and I personally asked her staff many times, as someone who will not show her face on this show. For me, I don't know. I think at one point in time I said I would join her campaign if she were running for president. Whatever this mode is, there's a lot of young conservative women in the country that are not going to get on board with it. And defending the Confederate flag is exhibit A of the best way to get people to be bleed.
So you think this is because she wants to run?
I think
that's a political move.
I think she wants it both ways. And as a politician, she's trying to play it so safe. She's only going to media outlets that she thinks are going to give her a good headline. And she's realizing very quickly that's not going to work for her. I struggle with her argument, what you were talking about, where she says in today's environment, the flag wouldn't be taken down because it is so divisive. I actually think it's the opposite. I think there are more and more American people that are pushing back against hate and realizing that we want to be in a place that we're proud of. She also talks about the Dillon Roof massacre, and that was the reason that the flag ultimately came down. I always struggled with that because I'm where your dad was and where I think everyone at this table is. When you have something that causes people so much pain, it doesn't matter if there's a group of people that think of it differently or just ignore that that happened. If it causes people so much pain, it shouldn't have been a massacre, a Dylan Roof shooting that makes that happen. We should have done this far sooner.
The worst part about it, too, is there are really amazing people in South Carolina. My husband's family's from South Carolina. There are a lot of really progressive people in South Carolina that don't want to be attached to this. And I had thought that this was an issue that we had collectively put to bed as a country, and I believe as South Carolinians had put to bed and since moved on. And I think when you see senators like Tim Scott, I would love to hear how he feels, the only black senator, Republican senator, excuse me, in the Senate. And I think what's hard is it's stirring up a lot of emotions, clearly, in a lot of people. I think Sonny's impassioned, moment on this. And I just wish we would just progress further, especially as conservatives and Republicans and South Carolina.
In my view, what she said on the Blaze, what she just wrote in her op-ed in the Washington Post, again, disqualifies her. These are not the actions or the words of a leader. A leader is someone who stands on morality, stands on conviction, doesn't speak out of both sides of her mouth. She is just quite simply not a leader.
You're talking about a leader. You're talking about a leader in the pre-Trump era, not now.
A leader at any time.
She has to prove to Trump that she's as narrow-minded and as bigoted as he is.
But it's an interesting...
Well, she's appealing to bigots.
But it's an interesting angle for her, given that she was sort of absolved from the, the sins of the Trump administration while she was serving. And she had a great reputation coming out of the administration, and her actions and books since have shown she's full MAGA, she's full Trump, she's full Confederate flag lady. And by the way, again, you're talking 4 years from now, you don't think there's going to be a sparkly, new, shiny person running for office coming up that's going to be a little shinier than you? I've been doing this a long time. I promise you, you're not going to be the shiniest object in 4 years.
Maybe she's talking about running for vice president, and maybe there's a little
whatever. But you know what? Oh yeah, that's true. You're right.
She wants to get rid. They want to get rid of Pence and put her in there.
She should be disqualified.
Pence better watch his back. We'll be right back.
Yeah.